All right, so in the previous lecture, we created the theme context as well as a context provider. So to sum it up, first we created the context by saying create context, and we call that function. And we store the returning function in this constant theme context. And after creating the context, we will need to provide the context data to the components. And to do that, we have created the context provider tag right here. And this provider is provided by the context itself. It's pretty clever. So remember that when we create a context, we have to create a provider, which is a tag. And that surrounds whichever components that we want to be able to use in that context inside. Okay, so on the provider tag, we also need to specify a value property. And this value property is going to take whatever data we want it to, because it's going to be provided to the components that is in this wrap. All right, so we want to basically provide this state object in here. So to do that, let's do another set of curly braces, and then we'll want to provide whatever properties that we have inside the state. So I'm going to use a bit of spread syntax, ... and this state. So this spread operator takes all of the different properties inside the state. And it's going to take all of the key value pairs in this state right here in, these three things. And that way it will spread them out into the new object that we will provide inside this value props. Okay, so this is the data that's going to be provided to the different components that this context provider tag wraps. So we want this context provider to wrap these components, navbar and to-do list. So let's first use the context data inside these components. So that means I'm going to save this and import the theme context provider into app.js, and then surround these components. Inside the app.js, I'm going to say import theme context provider from /contexts/theme contexts, like so. And now right here, I'm going to create a new tag called theme context provider and surround these two tags. So I'm going to copy the closing tag and paste here. All right, so I'll just save all that. And now, of course, nothing much is going to be happening, right? Because what we need to do is up here, in order to use these components inside the theme context provider, we want to output these two things inside the theme context component. So when we surround components like this using another component, these components are attached to the props of this thing right here. So inside the theme context provider component, we can access navbar and the to-do list components by saying this to refer to this component, which wraps the two children navbar and to-do list. And then we say .props.children, and then this will refer to the children that this component wraps. All right? So when we surround the other two components with this context component right here, it returns this JSX, which is the provider, and then it takes those other two components from app.js that it surrounds and places them here. And then this context provider tag provides all the data inside this value props to its children. And that makes the children these two things. All right, very cool. So that's our overall template. So let's save all this, and we'll go to the browser. We still see the app. Now, if we're going to go to the React panel, then let's expand this. And we can see the theme context provider in here. Now, if I select the context provider, we can see that, yes, it has children, props, and inside of it, we have the to-do list and navbar components. And I think you can also see here that we have value object. Now, it has all the value in our context state right here. Let me show you in here. So inside this provider, we have the dark theme, we have the light theme, all of that stuff inside the context state. We have is dark theme, the property right here, and that's set to true. So I'm going to just toggle that to change the UI theme, okay? So right now, these are the two children components, and they are able to access data provided by this context theme, all of this data right here. That's pretty awesome. So in the next lesson, we're going to see how we can consume that data in those two components. So we'll take a short break here, and we'll come back in the next lecture.